Hey everyone, so what we're looking for today is something called a linear regression equation. And what that is, it's an equation that calculates the line of best fit for a scatter plot or a set of data. So here we have a chart, and this chart typically will represent data from a scatter plot. So someone collected data of temperature in Fahrenheit and sales of a store. So when it was 53 degrees, the store made $190. When it was 57 degrees, the store made $210. So the first thing we want to do is we want to write a linear regression equation for this data set. We want to figure out what's the equation that would represent a line of best fit. So being that it's linear, we're still following what we know about linear equations, and that's typically y is equal to mx plus b, but when you're doing it in the calculator, it's not going to say this. It's going to say something like y is equal to, and I'll just color code this, a x plus, and our value of b. This is what it would look like in a calculator. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the linear regression of this, and really the best way to do this is honestly using a calculator. So what we're going to do is since we're looking at statistics of numbers on the calculator, you're going to click the stat button, which is right here. So click on that stat button, and when you click on it, you'll see this pop up. And since we're dealing with a table, we're going to hit on the edit section. We're going to hit edit because we want to edit a table. And on this table, you're going to have list 1, list 2, list 3. This represents your columns in your table. So list 1, you're going to put all the values in your first column. So the first value is 53. The second value is 57, and we're putting it exactly as it is. We are not reorganizing them. We're putting it exactly as it is. So 61, 65, enter, 71, enter, 73, enter, 77. I have 9 numbers. Sorry, I have 8 numbers, and I have them there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right because I want to now input numbers into list 2. The only important part of this now is that you have to make sure that the numbers in list 2 correspond to the same numbers in list 1. So 53 has to correspond with 190. 57 should correspond with 210. Otherwise your data and your equation will be very off. So 53, the sale price was 190, so we're going to type that in, 190, we're going to hit enter, then 210, enter, 315, enter, and then you're going to do that for all the rest of the numbers, 305, enter, 412, enter, 510, enter, 525, enter, 602, enter. Now I'm just double checking that all my numbers correspond, because if they don't, I'm going to have an error. Now all my numbers correspond. I'm ready to find out what's my equation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to hit that stat button. We're going to hit the stat button again, but this time I want to calculate the linear regression equation. So I'm going to go to the calculate section. So to get there, you press the right button, and now I'm going to look for linear regression that looks like ax plus b. So if I look down my list, I see linear regression with ax plus b is number 4, and then I'm going to hit enter on number 4. This is going to pop up. Then I'm going to hit enter once more. And right here, it gave us what our A is. It gave us what our B is. And then it gave us some other numbers, which I'll just talk about in a second. So let's start. We have A equals 17.8256, and our B is negative 766.1324. Now I'm writing out a few decimals because if I reread my question, it says write a linear regression equation for this data set, rounding all values to the nearest thousands. I want to remember that I have to round this to the nearest thousands. So all I'm going to do now is write my equation. So I know A is this, B is this, but we're going to round them. So y equals, so to get to my thousands place, it's going to be 17 point, this first decimal is my hundreds, the first is my thousands. So my decimal is still here, but I have to decide, do I round this to up or do I round it down? Since the number here is 5, since this number here is 5, I'm going to round this up, and my A will be 17.83. Then I'm going to have my X, it's a linear equation, and then my B value is a negative, so my sign is going to be negative, and we're also rounding this to the nearest thousands. So I'm going to go 2 numbers after my decimal place, and then I'm going to look at the other number. This number is a 2. So since it's 2, I'm going to keep this the same. We're going to have minus 766.13. And that right there is my linear regression equation. All we did is we just replaced the values from the calculator. So y equals 17.83x minus 766.13. Now there's one other thing that we want to look at is our second question says, what is the what is the correlation coefficient rounded to the nearest thousands? So if you guys remember from yesterday, we did learn about correlation coefficients. What that was is the letter R, and it represents how strong a relationship is. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the values again right here. We have r squared and r. It is very important to remember we're not looking for r squared, we're just looking for r. R is the value of our correlation coefficient. So here we have r is equal to 0.989. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to round this to the nearest thousands. So again, that's 2 decimal places. I'm going to determine, do I want to round this 8? So I'm going to look at the next number. So this next number here is 9. Since that number is greater than 5, this 8 is going to round up. We're going to have r equals 0.99. So our r is equal to 0.99. And if you guys remember, that means that there is a strong correlation coefficient. There's a strong correlation between the temperature in Fahrenheit and sales in dollars, since it's really, really close to 1. If for some reason when you're on your calculator and the r squared or the r doesn't show, I'm going to post a link underneath this video to a YouTube video showing how to get that r to show up when you do this. Thank you guys.